It's about time we got another controller. Astro was released back in March of 2021, and we haven't gotten another smoker since then. And to be honest, we've needed one. Viper has been the queen of maps, with a lot of ground to cover like Icebox and Breeze. No other agent can cover as much ground as she can, and Riot decided to give her some competition. But can Riot's newest controller, Harbor, compete with Viper's overwhelming amount of utility? Well, let's find out today as we go over all of Harbor's abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. Let's hop into it. To start, let's take a look at Harbor's aggressive Cascade ability. By pressing C, Harbor sends out a rolling wave that goes through walls. If you press it again, the wave stops in its tracks, and enemies who are hit by it are slowed. This is Harbor's anchor/aggressive ability, similar to Omen's Paranoia. On offense, if you want to take an area like Halls on Breeze, A-Link or C-Link on Haven, or really any site, you can throw his wall down and it allows you to push behind it, sort of like a big shield. I love this ability because this sort of plays off of the rule that you normally don't want to push smokes. Well, now the smoke is pushing you, meaning that if you get caught in it, you'll be slowed and Harbor's team will have the advantage and see you first as you are technically pushing through the wall. Like I mentioned, this ability is really similar to Omen's Paranoia in terms of its shape and use. Let's say your team is retaking B site on Ascent. You could use this Cascade to cut off the crossfire that people would have in Boathouse. Or you could fire it from Heaven on A site and use it to scale out of Heaven and block off A main. Keep in mind that any enemy that decided to push through this ability will be slowed and you'll see them before they see you. Do be careful though, as it only lasts about 8 to 9 seconds, so you'll have to use it quick. Another way you could use this ability would be if you wanted to anchor down a site. Again, let's say that you're playing on Breeze, A site, or B site. You throw your Cascade out as the enemy team is executing and you swing with your wall. You Omen mains out there should really feel comfortable with this, as you should be used to swinging out when using your Paranoia. With Harbor, you send out his Cascade and hold his wall with confidence. It's hard for enemies to flash through this, as the timing is awkward, and they'll be slowed if they try to push through it or make it around. Or you could use it to isolate the Jet from the rest of her team. She cloudbursts and dashes out, you Cascade, cut it off right after her smoke, and take an advantageous 1v1 because she has to come out of her smoke and her teammates have to push through a wall. So far, it seems like Harbor definitely has some potential behind his kit. Now, if Harbor sounds like fun, and you want to master him as quickly as possible, we at SkillCapped can help you out. We're already developing a Radiant level Harbor course on our website that'll break down his gameplay so that you too can play him at the highest level possible. Or if you just want to learn another agent, or just polish up on your fundamentals, we can help you with that too. We're so confident that we promise to give you your money back if you don't rank up while using our service. Now, before you fall behind, come check us out at SkillCapped. Next, let's talk about his smoke orb that literally blocks bullets. Similar to how Sage's barrier orb and Astra's ultimate, Harbor's Cove ability allows you to deploy a smoke that'll protect you from enemy gunfire. This is awesome if you're playing on a map like Icebox, Breeze, or Bind, where you're constantly getting spammed when trying to plant. You could even combine this with Sage's wall, and you'll never have to worry about getting spammed when you're planting. Just be careful though, as the orb only has 500 health. This sounds like a lot, but when you have 2 or more people shooting at it, this thing is going to go away quick. And note, once it breaks, the smoke will be gone too. This is why it's important you combo his Cove with his wall that we're going to talk about later. If you wall up and deploy your smoke, the enemy team is going to have a lot harder time figuring out where you're planting and stopping you from doing so. The orb also functions like Astra's ultimate in the sense that it won't block abilities. So while you can't get spammed by bullets, you can still get mollied off the plant. Now, one thing that I don't like about his Cove is that you can break your own orb. This means that if you want to spam back at the enemy, you can't. Or if you wanted to use it as a one-way, you would only be able to shoot at the enemy's feet as they passed it. And you're also relying on the fact that they won't just shoot it out beforehand. Another thing to note is that this could also be a pretty good repositioning tool for Harbor. Oftentimes, when you watch a controller anchor down a site, you'll notice how they use their smokes to ride around and reposition. By throwing down his orb, you could use it to get out of sticky situations. Yes, smokes like these on sites get spammed, but the orb should last long enough for you to either snake around site or at least play some mind games with your opponents. All in all, at 350 credits, I think this is a really strong ability. Next, let's talk about Harbor's signature ability, his High Tide. This ability acts like Viper's Toxic Screen and Phoenix's Blaze, but let's just say they had a baby. Harbor's wall goes through the map like Viper's, but can also curve it just like Phoenix's. The length on this thing is insane, allowing you to cover long sight lines like on Breeze or Icebox. And just like his Cascade, you also get slowed if you decide to push through his wall. This makes it way more punishable in my opinion than Phoenix or Viper's wall. Once they're through it, turning back would be a death sentence. And for some notes, Harbor's High Tide lasts around 12 to 13 seconds, which should buy you enough time to scale up sight, throw it on your Cove, and get the spike planted. This ability also recharges after 40 seconds, allowing you to default the first wall, then use your second for an execute. The equip time on it looks pretty fast too, so if the enemy team is pushing your site, you could potentially put a wall up and try and weave your way around it. This would again buy time for your team to rotate, just like how an Omen would smoke site to rat around and anchor. I also forgot to mention that by right-clicking, you can cut his wall off sooner, allowing you to fight with it much quicker. So it seems like this ability can be pretty strong if used by some creative people. And for his last ability, let's talk about his ultimate, his Reckoning. I think that this ability is the strongest out of all the controllers, and it can help your team a lot when trying to execute or retake. His ultimate works similarly to Breaches, where it'll cover a ton of ground, turn it into water, and enemies who are standing in it will get stunned. Not only that, but a huge lightning bolt appears above their head. So this ultimate works for information as well, telling you where the enemies are. The area of effect does shrink over time though, and the stun works similarly to Neon's relay bolts. When the circle forms around your feet, you do have a very small window to get out and dodge it and counter strafe, but the enemies do have to be moving to dodge it, obviously. So if you can catch them while they're dodging the stun, you should get a free kill. You could even potentially use this as stall utility as well. If the enemy team is executing on your site, pop your ultimate and try and swing them while they're dodging the stuns. Especially if you combine this with your Cascade, the enemies are definitely going to have a hard time pushing your site. We'll be waiting. Now, we've broken down all of his abilities, seen them in action, now it's time to make some predictions. In my opinion, I think that Harbor can be really strong if you're not a Viper player. His kit seems a lot more user-friendly, and if you're playing on Breeze or Icebox, you could make him work for sure. His Cascade, High Tide, and Cove allow his team to be safer as they're pushing onto site. The smokes are tougher to push through, you can't spam them as easily, and overall, his kit is just harder to punish. But where I see him struggling is in higher tiers of play. Simply put, I don't think his kit has enough utility to compete with Viper's spot. And yes, people love to bring up the concept of a double controller team comp, but could you honestly tell me the last time your ranked teammates ever wanted to run something like this? It's hard enough convincing one player to play smokes, much less two. His anchoring ability won't be as good as the other controllers, so I find it hard as to where you would slot him in a traditional comp. Who would you replace for Harbor in your games? Let us know in the comments, I'm sure it'll make for a great discussion. Personally, I don't think he's meta changing, but I could see some niche use if played well. So in conclusion, Harbor looks like an agent that's going to require some creativity. It is nice though, having another option that could rival Viper, and I'm excited to see how the best of the best utilize his kit. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel down below, it really does help us out. But before you go, keep in mind that this is all just one of many in-depth guides that we have on our website. Also, if you want a chance at having your VOD reviewed, be sure to subscribe to our website at SkillCapped.com. We also have tons of Radiant Smurf commentaries where we have Radiant players walking through exactly how to have the most impact possible in a bunch of different situations. Like I mentioned, it's also backed by a rank improvement guarantee, and the reason to do that is because you're just that confident that our service works. And if it doesn't work, then you shouldn't pay. So what are you waiting for? You got nothing to lose. Head on over to SkillCapped.com and get started on your way to that rank that you deserve. And yeah, that's it. Go play some Harbor. Thanks for listening, guys. I'm Teets, and we here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.